Close your eyes and imagine a world long before memory, a world where the continents rest in unfamiliar shapes, where no birds sing and no human foot has touched the soil. The sky above is painted with constellations subtly shifted from those we know, the stars shining with the same ancient patience. But the world beneath them is unrecognizable. Vast forests of towering ferns stretch across warm polar regions. Strange creatures drift through shallow seas, and volcanoes shape coastlines that no longer exist. The wind speaks in a different tongue. The air holds more secrets than we can ever name. And in this world, so distant from Mars it might as well be another planet, we pause to wonder, what if we were not the first? What if, in one of the countless forgotten chapters of Earth's story, another intelligence emerged? What if, before the rise of humans, before even the ancestors of mammals, there was a civilization not necessarily like ours, not necessarily human, but thinking, building, dreaming, and what if all evidence of their existence has long since turned to dust? Time stretches, time erases. We measure our own story in centuries, maybe a few thousand years, but Earth's story is written across billions in that expanse. Even mountains come and go, oceans rise and vanish, entire continents shift, collide and are swallowed by the deep. In such a world, could a civilization rise, thrive, and disappear, leaving behind nothing but a silence so complete we mistake it for absence? This is not a fantasy, not a myth, but a thought, a soft whisper echoing through time's depths. Could we be walking over the hidden remnants of a world unknown? In 2018, two scientists, Gavin Schmidt, a climatologist from NASA, and Adam Frank, an astrophysicist from the University of Rochester, posed a quiet, provocative question, not one meant to stir controversy or confirm a long-standing myth, but rather to explore the boundaries of what science can know. They called it the Silurian hypothesis, not because they believed a civilization existed in the Silurian period, some 440 million years ago, but because the name itself evokes the strangeness of deep time and the humbling scale of Earth's history. The hypothesis is not a claim, it is a thought experiment, a lens through which we ask, if an industrial civilization had once arisen on this planet long before humanity, would we be able to detect it now? And if so, how? What markers, what traces might still linger in the rocks, the oceans, the atmosphere? Schmidt and Frank weren't chasing ancient ruins or fossilized cities. They approached the question with the tools of their disciplines: climate science, astrophysics, planetary systems. They looked at the geological impact of our own industrial age, what scientists now call the Anthropocene, and asked what signs we are leaving behind: rising carbon dioxide levels, distinct shifts in isotopic ratios, synthetic chemicals and plastics scattered in sediment, radioactive elements from nuclear testing. These, they argued, are geological fingerprints, persistent, measurable, and globally distributed. So, they asked, if a civilization millions of years ago had followed a similar industrial trajectory, might it too have altered the planet's chemistry in ways that we could still detect today? But therein lies the challenge. Natural processes also leave marks: volcanic eruptions, methane bursts, asteroid impacts, all can produce sudden shifts in carbon and isotope signatures. The core of the Silurian hypothesis is not about proving anything. It's about learning how to distinguish the artificial from the natural, how to look at Earth's long history with fresh eyes. It invites us to reconsider our assumptions, to reflect on how fragile, how fleeting, even the most powerful civilizations may be when measured against geological time. Above all, it suggests the past may hide, subtle and unseen, preserved within stone, locked in ice, or woven into patterns only time and curiosity might uncover. To grasp the weight of the Silurian hypothesis, we must first come to terms with the immensity of time, not time as we live it, measured in hours, days, and years, but time as the Earth knows it. 4.5 billion years, a span so vast, our minds can scarcely hold it. If we condense the entire history of Earth into a single day, 24 quiet hours from midnight to midnight, our species, Homo sapiens, would not appear until the final moments before midnight. And everything we call civilization, our cities, our history, our written words, would occupy only the last fraction of a second, a blink, a breath in that vast quiet before us. Whole worlds could rise and fall, civilizations blooming like wildflowers in lost seasons, thriving briefly, then fading, leaving only a mark in stone, a trace on the breeze. We often think of history as something linear, one step after another, leading from past to present, simple to complex. But the Earth does not walk in straight lines. It cycles, it folds, it begins again. Ice ages come and go, continents wander, climates swing from warmth to cold and back again, species rise, evolve, and vanish. Mass extinctions strike like lightning, resetting the clock. And through it all, time moves at its own pace, slow, patient, eroding all certainty in such a vast theater. What are we? Our buildings? Our machines? Even our bones? All of it exists for the briefest interval. If we were to disappear tomorrow, how long would our presence remain? 1,000 years? 10,000? 1,000,000? Would the rocks remember us? Would the air? Or would we join the long procession of forgotten things, swept clean by time, erased not by malice but by the quiet persistence of Earth itself? The Earth is not a static archive. It is alive with movement, with pressure, with endless cycles of renewal. Over the course of millions of years, its surface is continuously rewritten. Wind and water wear away even the hardest stone. Rivers shift and reshape valleys. Glaciers scrape entire landscapes clean, leaving behind new blank canvases. Beneath our feet, the continents themselves drift, carried atop immense tectonic plates that glide slowly over the mantle. Mountains rise and crumble. Seabeds are lifted into skies, and then, with quiet patience, drawn back down again. This process, called subduction, pulls entire landmasses into the Earth's interior every 100 to 200 million years, where heat and pressure melt them into new rock. In such a world, what can endure? Consider the legacy of our civilization. Cities of steel and concrete, glass and wire, left untouched. Most of these materials would decay in tens of thousands of years. 1,000,000 years would erase nearly all visible signs. In 10 million, only the most persistent markers, perhaps a scattering of synthetic molecules or isotopic shifts, might remain buried deep beneath layers of sediment. And fossilization, that rare gift of geological preservation, offers no certainty. Less than 1% of all living organisms ever fossilize, and even then, it favors the hard over the soft. Bones and shells over skin or wood, speech, thought, technology, they leave no bones behind. Fossils form only under exceptional circumstances. Rapid burial, oxygen-poor environments, the absence of scavengers and weather. Earth does not erase with intent, but reshapes with quiet force. A patient artist painting new ages over old, blending edges, fading outlines, until the past merges with nature's own design. Thus, we wonder if an ancient civilization once shaped these lands, carving stone, forging metals, crafting tools. Could any relic endure this ceaseless cycle of renewal? Might their remnants linger below, mistaken for nature's quirks, or lost forever, reshaped beyond recognition by time's quiet hand? Thus, we ponder anew, with quiet curiosity, if a civilization once rose before us, shaping its world, touching its skies, crafting with minds now lost, what traces might remain? Would they stand vivid as marks on stone, or weave so seamlessly into Earth's rhythms that we overlook their meaning? Could a chemical anomaly, a sudden shift in carbon, or a curious layer of ash be the echo of something more? Or are we simply imagining shadows in the landscape shaped only by wind and water and fire? The Silurian hypothesis does not demand belief. It makes no claim to truth hidden beneath ancient mountains. It is an invitation to wonder, to listen, to walk quietly through the deep corridors of time and ask whether silence always means absence. Let us drift now toward that quiet expanse, toward time's gentle tide, where the past fades yet sometimes endures. In the next part of our journey, we will step closer to Earth itself, not as a passive witness, but as a restless force, a planet that buries, recycles, and renews. We will explore how the world forgets and what, if anything, it might still choose to keep. The Earth is never still. Beneath our feet, it breathes and shifts, not in hours or seasons, but in rhythms that stretch across eons. Wind carries the dust of mountains, grain by grain, from peaks to plains. Rain carves rivers that wander and deepen with every age. Ice sculpts valleys, then melts away, leaving silence in its place. And below the surface, far from our sight, vast tectonic plates drift and press against one another, reshaping the very bones of the world. Continents are not fixed. They migrate, collide, fracture, and reunite. Ocean floors are born in volcanic ridges and eventually pulled back into the deep earth through subduction zones, where stone becomes molten once more. Earth is not a monument. It is a canvas, and time is its brush. With each passing age, the world repaints itself, not in haste, but with quiet, unyielding patience. Old landscapes vanish beneath new ones. Shorelines shift. Forests grow where once there were deserts, and deserts form where lakes once shimmered. In this ceaseless reshaping, what endures, what fades? If structures once rose here, cities, paths, creations of forgotten minds, could they withstand such change? Might Earth have entombed their traces? Not with intent, but within its endless cycle. Like an artist forgetting each prior work, Earth reshapes and renews, time after time. What tales we ponder rest within its layers? What subtle traces lie beneath our foundations? We are a species of builders. We raise cities of steel and stone, stretch towers into the sky, carve roads across continents, and scatter our creations across land and sea. From concrete to copper, plastic to glass, we shape the surface of the world in our image. But how long will these marks endure? In 1,000 years, our tallest buildings will begin to crumble, exposed to wind, rain, and frost. Concrete cracks, steel rusts, glass fractures. Nature is patient, and patient forces always win. In 10,000 years, forests may reclaim our streets. Deserts may swallow the bones of our machines. Rivers may carry away the last bricks of our monuments, scattering them into silt and memory. Even plastic, that strange and durable invention, does not last forever. Though it resists decay in our time, ultraviolet light, heat, and microbial action begin to break it down. Over hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years, even plastic becomes brittle, fragmented, invisible, absorbed into the soil and sea. And if we disappeared, completely, silently, what would remain? Our satellites might linger in orbit, but only for a while. Our dams might hold back rivers for centuries, but even they would fall. Our digital records, etched on drives and screens, would fade almost instantly. The odds are not in our favor. Fossilization, the process that preserves the past, is rare. Less than 1% of all living things are ever fossilized. It requires a perfect balance, rapid burial, low oxygen, protection from decay. The same is true for our artifacts. Unless entombed in just the right way, they too would vanish. Our creations dim, our marks dissolve. The hands that crafted glass, the minds that raised towers, all blend into dust. In time, the earth swallows what we leave behind. Not with intent, but as part of its nature. Thus, we wonder if this awaits our cities, our machines, our legacy. What of those before us? Might another civilization have faded similarly, not in flames, but through quiet decay, within eroding stone, beneath layered earth, lost to time's patient tide? Beneath the surface of what we see, the earth is always at work, layer by layer. It builds and buries, erases and remakes. Sediment gathers in lakes and oceans, collecting dust from the wind, ash from ancient fires, the shells of vanished creatures. and the quiet remnants of time. Compressed over millennia, these layers turn to stone, rock strata that seem eternal, yet are always temporary. Far below, tectonic plates shift slowly, so slowly we barely notice, but with power enough to move continents. At subduction zones, entire regions of Earth's crust are drawn downward, into the mantle. There, over tens or hundreds of millions of years, stone melts and reforms. Whatever was once on the surface, mountains, cities, oceans, becomes part of the planet's deep interior, indistinguishable from magma. This is geological recycling, the long cycle through which Earth renews itself. It is not a straight path, but a spiral, old worlds buried to make way for new. Every inch of land has a past older than memory, most of it gone, overwritten by fire, pressure, and time. We might imagine Earth's surface as a book, each page a new age. But unlike the books we know, this one is rewritten often, chapters erased, margins burned, paragraphs submerged beneath rising seas. Only fragments survive. Fossils, trace chemicals, curious rocks that tell partial stories. Within this grand ledger of rock and time, what endures from ages past? Might a civilization imprint its legacy in such a cycle? Could metals, plastics, or radiation persist beneath sediment deep as mountains? Or would they dissolve, dispersed, reshaped beyond recognition? As we delve deeper into time, traces grow ever fainter, yet Earth captures all. Though it keeps only fragments, the rarest signs endure, but their meaning may elude us still. In the great archive of Earth's history, most pages are missing, not by accident, but by nature's design. The fossil record, for all its wonder, is a story told in fragments. Only a tiny fraction of all life is ever preserved. Perhaps less than 1 in 1,000 species leaves behind a trace, and even then, only bones, shells, or the hardest parts survive. Skin, breath, thought, they vanish without a sound. The same is true of what we build. Our tools, our machines, the structures that define our age, they were never meant to endure eternity. Metals corrode, ceramics fracture, even synthetic materials, so long-lived in our experience, will one day break apart. If a past civilization once rose and fell, its remnants would face the same fate. They might lie buried beneath ancient sediments, hidden in mineral veins or sealed in the walls of uplifted mountains. Or they may be gone entirely, melted in the mantle, scattered through the crust in forms no longer recognizable. And even if something survived, would we see it for what it was? A twisted fragment of alloy might be dismissed as an unusual mineral. A patterned layer of carbon, the result of intense industry, might be mistaken for a natural methane release. Earth is filled with patterns, chemical, structural, rhythmic, and separating the artificial from the natural is no simple task. The deeper we look, the more nature surprises us with forms that seem deliberate, even when they are not. Thus, with quiet curiosity, we ponder, if a civilization once graced this earth, would we discern it? Might its traces lie before us, woven into nature's patterns, mistaken, unseen, or buried beneath time's heavy veil? The earth forgets, not out of cruelty, but through motion, through cycles older than memory. It buries, breaks, renews, and in doing so, it softens the outlines of what came before. Our own time, bright and busy as it feels, is just a moment, and if we were to vanish, we too would fade, slowly, silently, until only the most persistent echoes remained. But perhaps not everything would be lost. Perhaps within time's quiet depths, beneath stone's layers, or locked in ancient ice's calm, a trace endures, not a monument, not a name, but a signature, a quiet anomaly, waiting for someone, someday, to notice. And if that's true for us, might it not also be true for others? What if there was a civilization before ours, not human, not known, but thinking, creating, wondering, now erased but not entirely gone? What would it have looked like? How might it have lived? What choices might it have made? And what might it have left behind? In the next part of our journey, we will shift from silence to imagination and gently ask, if a civilization once existed in Earth's distant past, how might it have differed from ours? What forms could intelligence take? And what paths might it have followed beneath ancient skies? Let us continue, step by step, into the great unknown. Picture a world not shaped by our hands, a world millions of years gone, where the continents lie in unfamiliar places, and the stars overhead drift in constellations subtly different from our own. The air is heavy with scents no human nose has known. The forests speak in the rustle of strange leaves, and the oceans breathe with tides pulled by a younger moon. Beneath those skies, in lands untouched by any modern footstep, something stirs, not human, not ours, but thinking, building, dreaming. Perhaps it moved through dense jungles with quiet purpose, or swam in warm seas beneath glowing plankton light. Perhaps it spoke not in words, but in rhythms, in scent, in color. Perhaps it built, not with steel and stone, but with other tools, more fleeting, more alive. The Silurian hypothesis invites us not to assume, but to envision, to release, gently, the mirror we hold to the past, and ponder, if intelligence bloomed in a lost age, would it resemble us? Might it raise towers, pave paths, or leave no mark at all? Not all minds build cities. Not all civilizations leave behind bones or bricks. What, then, might we overlook, not because it is hidden, but because we never thought to see it? In this gentle opening, we let the thought unfold, soft yet enduring, a murmur through time's depths. What might have come before? Life is not a single story. It is a multitude of paths, branching, converging, fading, and reappearing across the endless canvas of time. On our Earth, intelligence has not been a singular gift, but a recurring possibility. Octopuses, with their soft, shifting bodies, solve puzzles in the dark corners of the sea. Crows remember faces, use tools, and pass their knowledge from one generation to the next. Dolphins speak in clicks and tones, carrying meaning through water. These are not accidents. They are signals, signs that the mind, in its many forms, can rise again and again through different vessels. Hands are not required, nor fire, nor wheels. Only the slow, persistent shaping of awareness by time, by need, by environment. In the Devonian period, long before the first mammals, forests rose for the first time, and complex fish swam through coral-rich seas. In the Cretaceous, flowering plants spread across the land, and vast ecosystems teemed with life, adapted to climates warmer, stranger than ours. Could a form of cognition, complex, social, responsive, have emerged in such an age, not to mirror our own, not to follow our path, but to walk another, one that left no writing, no plastic, no cities, but thought nonetheless? Evolution favors what works, not what we expect, and while we often place ourselves at the center of intelligence, the truth is broader, quieter. The mind may emerge through feather or scale, within fin or fungus, dwelling in forms we might not recognize, speaking in patterns we cannot yet unravel. The Silurian hypothesis softly inquires, not whether life thrived before us, we know it did, but whether, along those ancient branches, a mind, akin to ours or wholly different, arose, shone briefly, then faded. We often speak of civilization as though its meaning is fixed. Cities with walls and streets, writing etched in stone, machines humming in ordered lines, agriculture, trade, var, law, but these are our measures, reflections of our path, not a universal rule. What if a civilization took a different shape? What if it lived in vast coral-like colonies, shaping its world through biology rather than metallurgy? What if it passed memory through scent or resonance, not through symbols carved or printed? What if its structures were grown, not built, made of living tissue, dissolving quietly after death? Our lens is narrow, focused on permanence, on materials that resist time. But not all cultures aim to endure. Some bloom and pass like wildflowers, their legacy held in minds, in gestures, in harmony with the land rather than conquest of it. The Silurian hypothesis urges us to broaden our vision, to envision societies needing neither pyramids nor silicon to exist, minds that never wielded pens, communities leaving no metal tools or fossilized factories, only traces, delicate, organic, long faded. Might a civilization flourish without monuments, waste, or marks on stone? Could it leave only harmony? A fleeting shift in ecosystems, an unusual alignment of species, a subtle trace of complexity in an age we deem ordinary. We search for ourselves in the past, but perhaps the past holds lives that were never like us. And if so, would we even know how to see them? Would we recognize the intelligence of another way, or would we pass it by, eyes fixed on stone and steel, never thinking to listen for breath and rhythm? Legacy, we often believe, is what remains. But time teaches otherwise, for even the grandest legacies fade. Carved stone wears to dust, metal oxidizes and vanishes. Words, once spoken with weight, dissolve into silence. If a civilization once rose before us, human or not, what chance would its memory have had to last? If they built with living tissue, if their machines were soft, organic, fleeting, if their records were encoded not in ink but in pulse, in scent, in vibration, then time would take them quickly. Rain would wash their homes away. Wind would scatter their signals. The deep churn of earth would bury all without hesitation or pause. Even if they reshaped their world with industrial means, altering the atmosphere, drawing resources, imprinting traces on stone, how could we discern their handiwork? A carbon surge might stem from volcanoes, an isotopic shift from methane's release, in a planet shaped by fire and flood, by impact and upheaval. The signature of intelligence may be indistinguishable from the noise of nature itself. Thus, the inquiry persists, not only whether such a civilization existed, but whether we could recognize it. We might tread upon their world's remains, unseeing, or hold their relics, mistaking them for mere stone. The Silurian hypothesis seeks no grand answers, but imparts a gentle lesson in humility. The past may hold depths beyond our imagining, wonders beyond our expectations, and silences we are yet to fathom. As we wander through these ancient possibilities, we find not answers, but inquiries, soft yet lasting, stirring within time's quiet expanse. What forms might intelligence take? When freed from the shape of our own reflection, what choices might it make? If it rose in another age, beneath another sky, and if such a civilization once lived and faded, would the Earth still remember? The Silurian hypothesis does not seek proof. It invites imagination, bounded by science and guided by humility. It reminds us that our story may not be the only one this planet has known, that the past is not a straight line, but a vast ocean of forgotten branches and invisible possibilities. Perhaps nothing came before us. Perhaps we are the first. But if not, if even once, somewhere in Earth's long turning, another civilization stirred, what would it have left behind? Not monuments, not myths, but signatures, quiet imprints pressed into the rock. In the next part of our journey, we turn from imagination to inquiry, from wondering what might have been to asking what might still be seen, in stone, in sediment, in the chemistry of Earth itself. Are there traces, however faint, of a world long forgotten? Let us look closer and begin to listen to the rocks. Imagine standing before a canyon. Its walls stretch high into the sky, carved not by hands but by wind, by water, by time itself, layer upon layer. The rock records a story, each stripe a page from an age-long past. Red sands from ancient deserts, pale bands from vanished seas, dark seams rich with life now turned to stone. Within stone's layers, amid time's quiet, a tale may endure. What does the earth preserve, and what does it let fade? Within its silent layers, might a murmur, a fleeting mark, hint at a world not ours, not a city, not a name, but a signature, left not in words, but in chemistry, in structure, in something nearly hidden. The Silurian hypothesis seeks no ruins, but looks downward, to stone, to sediment, to the planet's ancient ledger. It asks, if a civilization once flourished millions of years ago, would we find its echo not in monuments, but in the patterns left behind, a surge in carbon, a shift in isotopes, a scattering of rare elements? These are subtle signs, delicate and fleeting, etched into the Earth's crust like a memory held briefly. If a civilization once rose in Earth's deep past, one that shaped its world, altered its climate, or transformed the chemistry of its time, what would it leave behind? Not statues or scriptures, but subtler marks, a change in the air, a fingerprint in the soil. One possible trace might be a sudden rise in carbon. If they burned fuels as we do, releasing stored energy from ancient life, then the atmosphere would respond and the rocks would remember. A carbon spike, a breath held in the stone, visible in the layers that settle quietly at the bottom of seas and lakes. Another sign could lie in the balance of isotopes, small variations in carbon-13. For instance, that shift when biological processes dominate over natural ones, these tiny changes, imperceptible to the eye, can speak of life's influence on the planet. And if that life was industrial, organized, intentional, the shift might be distinct. Then there are the metals, elements like platinum, rare earths, or synthetic compounds used in advanced technologies. If scattered in sediment, they might seem out of place, a quiet note of anomaly in an otherwise natural song. But these traces are fragile. As we've seen, Earth recycles. It buries, erodes, melts, lifts and folds what one age lays down. Another may erase. A layer of sediment can be scraped clean by a glacier or thrust into the sky, broken. Lost, subduction can draw entire surfaces into the mantle, where memory is melted into magma. Thus, these signs, if they once existed, might be fragmented, transformed, or lost. A civilization's imprint may persist like a fleeting fragrance, faintly discernible, yet never certain, never complete. And yet, we look, because the rocks may still hold whispers, strange alignments, quiet anomalies that speak not of nature alone, but of something more deliberate, something long forgotten, something that, for a brief moment, tried to shape the world. Today, we are the ones leaving marks. Our time, the Anthropocene, is being etched into the earth, not with words, but with byproducts, plastics that drift into oceans, settle into sediments, concrete that paves valleys and dries into unnatural stone, metals refined and scattered, from copper to cadmium, tin to tantalum, and deeper still, there are the whispers of radiation, isotopes like cesium-137 or plutonium-239, born from nuclear tests and reactors. These elements do not occur naturally in such forms or concentrations, and they linger, half-lives stretching through centuries, some even longer. If a future geologist were to read the rocks of today, what would they find? A layer stained with synthetic compounds, a sudden change in carbon, the delicate fingerprint of radioactive dust. And yet, even these marks may not last. Plastics grow brittle, break into pieces, and sink. Concrete crumbles, buried by silt and forest. Radiation, potent now, fades over time. Like footprints in sand, our bold strokes may blur into shadows or vanish entirely. Still, these are our signatures, and if we leave them, could others have done the same? A carbon anomaly here, a curious element there. Subtle, perhaps, but strange enough to wonder. In the grand book of Earth's history, our presence is a sketch, brief, unsteady, written in ink not made to endure. The Silurian hypothesis invites us to ponder, could an older, subtler sketch lie within earlier pages, not erased, but unseen? We write our chapter now, yet the stone may cradle others. Names unknown, voices unheard, lingering for someone to discern their subtle marks in time's unfolding ledger. The rocks do not speak plainly. Their language is subtle, layered, shaped by fire, by water, by the slow weight of time. And so, even if traces of a lost civilization exist, recognizing them is no simple task. A spike of carbon, for instance, It may suggest industry, the burning of fuel, a world transformed by intelligent hands. But it might just as easily come from a massive volcanic eruption, or the decay of vast forests caught in climate's shifting rhythms. A concentration of iridium, a rare metal on Earth's surface, could raise questions, but we've seen such a signature before, in the thin layer that marks the end of the Cretaceous, when an asteroid struck the Earth and life changed forever. Not industry, not intention, just nature, indifferent and immense. Our own assumptions can mislead us. We search for patterns we recognize, markers like those we are leaving behind today. But what if another civilization left signs unlike our own? What if their presence altered chemistry in ways we do not expect, or resembled natural processes so closely that we fail to notice? Science is precise, but it is also limited by what it knows to ask. Our instruments are sharp, but our understanding is shaped by experience. We look through lenses built in the present, trying to see into a past that may have followed unfamiliar rules. The Silurian hypothesis urges caution, prompting us to question not just what we uncover, but our understanding of it, the signs of a lost civilization. If they remain, may be subtle, elusive, like a fleeting thought or a distant memory woven into stone. We explore the stone, seeking not answers, but subtle traces, perhaps left with intent. The Silurian hypothesis presents no certainties, but a gentle inquiry, stirring through time's quiet depths. Could we find the remnants of a civilization, not in artifacts, but in chemistry, not in monuments, but in the quiet curves of ancient rock? The journey is not fast, and the clues, if they exist, are not bold. They are ripples, shifts in the pattern, a breath caught in the sediment, a flicker of difference in a world shaped by so many forces. If such traces are there, they wait patiently, embedded in layers older than memory, waiting for our tools to grow sharper, for our minds to grow quieter, waiting for us to learn their language. Thus, we journey further, back to an era before mammals, before trees, to the Silurian age. Among its alien seas and early life, we ponder, what world was this? Might it, perhaps, have held something beyond our imagining? Let us venture into time's quiet expanse and listen. Close your eyes and drift back, far beyond memory, to a time 440 million years ago. The Earth is unfamiliar, its continents huddled in strange formations. Seas stretch wide and shallow, bathing lands that no longer exist. The air, heavy with warmth and stillness, carries no birdsong, no rustle of flowering plants. The world, serene and ancient, pulses with life we no longer know. This is the Silurian period, a chapter in Earth's deep past, a time when life still clung to the oceans, when plants had just begun to brave the land. Tiny, moss-like forms no taller than a finger. In these waters, strange creatures stir, trilobites scuttling along seabeds, jawless fish weaving through currents. Long before us, long before memory, a different Earth turned beneath the same stars. The Silurian hypothesis takes its name from this time, not because a civilization is believed to have thrived then, but because it reminds us of deep time's unfathomable scale, a symbol of the mysteries held in stone. What was this distant world? Might it have cradled minds, alien and unwritten, gazing at the same sunrise, pondering, could awareness have sparked fleetingly in a realm now vanished? The stones of this era still murmur, for those who learn their language, telling of warmth, water, change, and perhaps tales yet to be deciphered. In the Silurian, the world was soft and slow, warm. Shallow seas spread across the continents, inviting life to flourish in quiet abundance. The air, thick with carbon dioxide, wrapped the planet in gentle heat. Rain fell on barren shores, where no forests yet grew, only small, thread-like plants clinging close to the ground. These were the first pioneers of land, plants like Cooksonia, fragile and moss-like, rising timidly from damp soil. Their presence changed everything, drawing down carbon, releasing oxygen, preparing the land for futures they would never see. Beneath the waves, life moved with silent grace, trilobites crawled across ancient seabeds, their segmented forms glinting in the filtered light. Jawless fish, armored in bone, glided through currents, sensing their world in ways we cannot know. Coral reefs bloomed in warm waters, their patterns intricate and ancient. The continents then were strangers to us. Laurentia, Baltica, Gondwana, drifting slowly across the globe, sculpted not by human hands, but by time and tectonics. Their edges were cradled by oceans rich with calcium and life, and by the slow dance of creation and erosion. The Silurian hypothesis draws its name from this distant era, not asserting a civilization's rise, but inviting us to ponder how much remains unknown of the past. The name echoes from science fiction, Doctor Who's Silurians, intelligent reptiles imagined to have thrived before humans. But in this context, it is a symbol, a way to hold deep time in our thoughts, to ask not when, but if. Might a civilization have emerged in such an age, not with brick or steel, but through thought, structure, intent? We make no assertions, merely pondering, for Earth holds countless tales, few of which we've glimpsed. Beyond the Silurian, the Earth turned through many other ages, each one a chapter written in stone and silence. In the Devonian, some 400 million years ago, the seas still ruled, but the land began to awaken. Forests of ferns and towering lycopsids rose skyward, cloaking the earth in green. For the first time, riverbanks teemed with new life, and from the water's edge, creatures with limbs, early tetrapods, began to test the air. It was a time of expansion, of adaptation, of quiet invention. Could one of these new forms have held a spark? Not human, not even close, but something aware, something complex. Later, in the Cretaceous, the earth shimmered under warm skies. Dinosaurs roamed forests rich in flowering plants. Birds took wing, their ancestors' bones hollow and light. Oceans were alive with reptiles, fish, and plankton drifting in nutrient-rich swells. This world, so full of life, so vibrant and vast, spanned tens of millions of years, long enough for patterns to emerge, long enough, perhaps, for minds to stir. Let us recall, life weaves many paths. Intelligence need not rely on hands or tools, but may arise through tentacles, songs, hive structures, or coral's quiet memory. In those distant epochs, when Earth was vast and unfamiliar, might sentience have stirred, a form of awareness taking root, flourishing briefly, then fading? We do not know. But science invites us to keep the question open, to wonder without declaring, to see in every chapter of Earth's history not just what was, but what might have been. Life, after all, is inventive, and time gives it every chance to surprise us. Earth's story is not short. It stretches across 4-5 billion years, a span so vast that our minds can scarcely hold it. Imagine, if you will, a library beyond imagining. Its shelves curve away into darkness, filled with books not yet written. Each book is an epoch, each page a million years. The Silurian, the Devonian, the Cretaceous. These are chapters with titles we know, but contents we barely glimpse. Within each lies time enough for continents to move, for mountains to rise and fall, for life to emerge, change, and vanish. Within time's quiet expanse, what might have flourished? Might intelligence have awakened? Not once but often, thoughts rising, profound and deliberate, then fading through time's patient erosion. We think ourselves unique, because we are here now, aware and wondering, but time is long, and the earth has known many dawns. In those early mornings of the world, might something else have looked out and wondered too? The fossil record is fragmented, stones choosy in what they preserve. Thus, the inquiry persists, not as an assertion, but as a subtle possibility. In this vast library of time, how many stories have gone unread? How many were written in soft traces, now lost? The earth does not hurry, and its pages turn slowly, one by one, and sometimes without a sound. As we dwell amid the tranquil seas of the Silurian, bathed in ancient sunlight, enveloped by a world beyond memory. We sense time's vast reach behind us. These epochs, strange and distant, remind us that Earth is old, far older than anything we know. The Silurian period stands not as an answer, but as an invitation, a symbol of how much we do not know and how many chapters may be missing from the story of life. It asks us to look beyond what we can see and wonder what might have stirred in the darkened folds of time. If civilizations ever rose in those forgotten ages, would they have changed their world? As we are changing ours, would they have altered air and water, carved land and sky, left signatures not of their form, but of their actions? We cannot know, but the question follows us, soft and persistent. And so we turn now to our own time, to the Anthropocene, the era we have shaped with our hands, our machines, our choices. In this next chapter, we will explore our legacy and ask whether it might one day echo those lost to time, or whether we, too, will be swept into silence and remembered only by the traces we leave behind. Gaze upon our world tonight, cities shimmering beneath starlit calm, highways weaving like veins across the land, oceans stirred by ships and darkened by drifting plastic. We shape, we transform, we imprint traces. Rivers once pure now carry the memory of our machines, and the sky, once cool and clean, now holds the warmth of our restless breath. Concrete rises and falls, forests retreat, the air thickens with the quiet persistence of carbon. We are a fleeting presence, measured not in epochs but in years, and yet our mark runs deep, etched into soil, cast into ocean, rising in the atmosphere like an echo of our ambition. This is the Anthropocene, our chapter in Earth's long story. As we reflect, the Silurian hypothesis poses a subtle inquiry, a mirror to our era. Might a civilization, long lost in a buried world, have reshaped its Earth in ways we might discern? Might they have shaped their world, transformed it, left traces like ours, lingering within stone, air, or time's quiet expanse? We burn and the carbon rises. Like a breath held too long in the sky, it gathers, invisible yet powerful, blanketing the earth with warmth. We mine, and the bones of the planet yield their metals, their stones, their secrets. We dig deep for energy, carve mountains for minerals, clear forests for space, and in doing so, we etch new lines into the Earth's story. Our oceans carry the debris of our making, plastics drifting like modern fossils, fragments too stubborn to vanish. Our soils absorb the remnants of industry, heavy metals, chemicals, the faint hum of isotopes born in nuclear fire. Cesium-137, for instance, lingers in sediment since the 1950s, a quiet reminder of our atomic age. These are the Anthropocene's hallmarks. Our legacy etched not in monuments or myths, but through chemical shifts, geological traces, and the subtle reshaping of Earth's balance. We have warmed the climate, altered the seas, moved more rock and soil than rivers once did. And yet, even this, in the scale of geological time, is but a flicker. 10,000 years ago, ice cloaked the land. 10,000 years hence, what will endure of us? Might our carbon's trace linger in stone? Could a future mind uncover our imprints beneath the dust? Or will Earth, as ever, renew itself, layering time upon time, letting our era fade quietly? Imagine, if you will, a civilization long lost to time, not human, not familiar, but thoughtful, capable, alive in their own way. They walked a different Earth, a world of unfamiliar skies and continents reshaped. And yet perhaps they too altered the land that held them. Perhaps they cultivated not wheat or rice, but something suited to their world, changing soil chemistry with each season cycle. Perhaps they burned, not fossil fuels as we know them, but organic matter that left a trace, a subtle shift in isotopes, a quiet rise in atmospheric carbon. Locked now in ancient stone, their industries, if they had them, may not have hummed with steel and fire, but their choices may still have left echoes, mining for materials unknown to us, building with substances now long eroded or transformed. Did they shape rivers to their will? Carve the surface for shelter, for roads, for meaning? Did they, too, build monuments to their time, never knowing how fragile their legacy would be? We cannot discern, yet the inquiries hold weight. As our carbon permeates air and ocean, theirs might have similarly spread, their energy use perhaps weaving patterns now buried deep. Their influence, like currents in a vast sea, may have flowed through their world, gentle at the edges, dimming through time's expanse. Did they see their own fragility? Did they wonder what would come after? Or did they, like us, live in the now, unaware that the earth remembers only in fragments? That even the deepest ripples eventually still. Our buildings, so tall, our machines, so powerful, they seem eternal in the now, yet all things fade. Concrete cracks, steel rusts, plastic, though stubborn, will fragment and sink into layers of dust. In 1,000 years, nature reclaims in 1,000,000. The earth reshapes, and in 10 million, even our greatest works may vanish without a trace. The Silurian hypothesis seeks no dire warnings, but calls us to humility, reminding us that even a civilization's grandest traces may vanish under wind and tide. Through time's patient flow, so we are left with a choice. If our physical legacy is fragile, what else might endure? Could our true mark be less in monuments and more in mindset, in how we learn, how we adapt, how we care for the world we momentarily shape? What will the geologists of the far future find? A carbon spike, a plastic thread, a silence where once there was much? Or might they discern a subtler, lasting mark, evidence not merely of existence, but of intent? We owe the future more than fossils. We owe them wisdom, restraint, kindness to the earth and to each other. For the story the rocks may tell of us is not yet finished, and we are still writing it. As we look into the mirror of our own making, we begin to see not only what we are, but what may have been. Our footprint, carbon and concrete, plastic and radioisotopes, is not just a signal to the future, it is a reflection of a possibility from the past. Might another civilization have tread this path before us, reshaping their world, marking their era, then dissolving into time's quiet expanse? Their tale, like ours, may have shone briefly on time's vast tapestry, then dim through Earth's patient erasure. If such stories ever existed, they may not be carved in monuments or written in stone, but hidden in gaps, in questions, in places where the record falters and the Earth's memory grows faint. Let us now explore time's quiet gaps, the fossil record's mysteries and unwritten pages, pondering gently what traces linger between the lines, what might have existed, and could a subtle mark of another still await discovery. Imagine the fossil record as an ancient tome, its pages layered in stone, each stratum inscribed with whispers of life. There are bones, shells, imprints of creatures long gone, each a word in Earth's unfolding story. And yet many pages lie blank. In the silence, in the gaps, a mystery lingers. What narratives were never written? What lives passed unheard, unseen, unscripted? What does this record truly tell us? What does it leave unexplained? We read of great radiations of species, the rise and fall of life forms, the slow turning of evolution's wheel, and then silence, vast spans where the pen seems to have paused, pages unwritten, chapters missing, lives unknown. The fossil record is an incomplete book, a volume filled with chapters we cherish, and spaces we must fill with questions. Fossils emerge only when conditions align. Rapid burial, the absence of decay, the kind of rare alchemy that turns flesh to stone. Many species leave no trace. Delicate beings, soft creatures, even entire ecosystems may vanish without record. Amid time's quiet voids, we are drawn to wonder. These empty pages beckon us to ask, what lived, what thought, what built, and then disappeared before memory etched its mark. The Silurian hypothesis invites us into this space, not to claim lost civilizations, but to imagine respectfully, could a civilization, ancient and vanished, have existed in those unwritten chapters? We do not assert new truths. We open a door to possibility. The gaps are real, the mysteries persistent, and in those blank spaces, Earth offers us a silent question. What might lie hidden just out of reach? In the next section, we will explore why these gaps occur, how preservation works, how biases shape what survives, and what science teaches us about life's missing pages on this restless planet. Fossils are rare treasures, whispers preserved in stone, remnants of life that once moved Earth, bones, shells, footprints, impressions of leaves. These are the words that time allowed the rock to keep. Yet what we see is only a fragment of the whole tapestry of life. The fossil record is not a complete chronicle, but a delicate mosaic of moments that happen to survive. Only a fraction, far less than 1 in 100, of all life ever lived leaves a trace behind. For an organism to become a fossil, the conditions must be nearly perfect. It must be buried swiftly, shielded from oxygen and scavengers, buried under layers of sediment that seal it from decay. In most cases, soft tissues vanish into air, insects, jelly-like creatures, even entire forests collapse without trace. Only the hardest parts, bones, shells, hardened impressions, stand a chance. Preservation bias guides what we find. Animals with shells and skeletons become fossilized far more often than soft-bodied organisms. Footprints and burrows may leave hints of activity, but artifacts of thought, tools, carvings, structures rarely endure. If an ancient civilization existed without stone monuments, without durable metals, if their legacy was biological, or cultural, or ephemeral, the fossil record may never show it. Consider that even today's cities, built of steel and concrete and plastic, may not fossilize in the ways we imagine. Concrete crumbles, metal corrodes, plastics fragment, organic buildings, biological structures will decompose without trace. If an ancient civilization worked with living materials or encoded knowledge in biology rather than structures, then time might simply erase all physical proof. Science shows us that the fossil record favors hard evidence. Shells turned to stone, bones mineralized through burial, sediment capturing momentary impressions. But the silence between layers, those clean strata without fossil content, speaks volumes too. Those gaps remind us that much of Earth's history remains unwritten in rock. So when we ask our gentle question, could a civilization have existed that left no fossils? We are not dreaming without basis. We are listening to what geology itself tells us. Most of life leaves no trace. Soft bodies vanish. Thought is not preserved. Culture dissipates like mist. Time is the greatest censor, and yet, within those blank pages, possibility arises, not certainty, but invitation. If a civilization once existed in deep time, we should not expect stone ruins or skeletal remains. We should look instead for the few signals that might endure. Chemical shifts in sediment, isotopic anomalies, traces in deep clay layers, but even those may be weak, obscure, easily mistaken for natural phenomena. In the next section, we will turn to one of the most dramatic puzzles in the fossil record, the Cambrian explosion and other gaps where life appears abruptly, without clear precursors. We will examine what science tells us about oxygen levels, body plans, preservation bias, and how those explanations intersect with questions about what remains unseen. In the Cambrian period, roughly 541 to 530 million years ago, life as we know it appeared in astonishing variety. Trilobites scuttled across the seafloor, worms burrowed into sediment, creatures with shells and spines swam and crawled in oceans once nearly empty. It feels like a sudden awakening, an explosion of form and function. But before that moment, the fossil record is astonishingly quiet. In the silence before that flourish, few fossils remain, soft-bodied creatures with no hard shells, no bones, rarely fossilized. This gap may not reflect absence of life, but absence of preservation. Scientists point to possible causes. Rising oxygen levels may have enabled stronger body plans. Genetic innovations allowed shells and skeletons to evolve. Burial under sediment preserved hard tissues that earlier life lacked. But whether life was rare or life was hidden remains a question. Then there are other perplexing gaps. That period just before the Cambrian, known as the Ediacaran, preserves strange, frond-like organisms, many of which disappear without clear descendants. The fossil record of early land is spotty, showing long stretches without terrestrial fossils, even though ecosystems likely existed. These silent chapters remind us that what we see is shaped by what can survive time's filters. Scientists offer grounded explanations. Preservation bias means soft creatures rarely leave marks. Environmental shifts, like ocean chemistry, temperature, or oxygen changes, may trigger evolutionary leaps. Geological conditions might favor fossil formation in one epoch but not another. These natural forces explain the sudden appearance of complex life forms and the blanks that span millions of years. Yet, even faced with scientific answers, the gaps remain evocative. They are starless nights in Earth's story, spaces where life's beginning seems obscured. We cannot say that a civilization inhabited those gaps, but understanding how they arise helps us see the limits of what rock can tell us. A civilization without hard parts, built of organic structures or cultural knowledge, might leave no fossil trace at all, especially in periods where fossilization rarely occurs. In this space of scientific humility, the Silurian hypothesis invites thoughtful wonder, not asserting a lost civilization, but asking what might have existed but left no bone, no shell, no stone. If advanced life arose and vanished in those missing chapters, we may never find direct fossils, only subtle hints, chemical signatures, isotopic anomalies, layers that don't fit the expected pattern. As we close this chapter, we carry forward the silence of these gaps, not as an absence of life, but as an awakening of curiosity. They remind us that Earth's record is incomplete, but never absent of questions. The Silurian hypothesis invites us to wonder, not to believe, not to claim, but to imagine gently. Could a civilization's shadow lie hidden in the fossil record's silent gaps? Could their tools, their thoughts, their presence have crumbled into nothing or been mistaken for nature's quiet work? We have no evidence, no fossils of cities, no tools pressed into stone, only questions that soften the boundaries of what we know. Fossilization, as we've learned, is a rare and selective process. It favors the hard, the buried, the lucky. A civilization of soft materials, of organic structures, of subtle influence might vanish without a trace. Even their most lasting marks, chemical signals, unusual isotopes, might be swept away by time's patient erosion, or misread as volcanic breath. As cosmic dust, could we recognize their echoes? Could we distinguish the work of thought from the work of chance? The Silurian hypothesis does not insist. It only opens a doorway into a deeper listening, not for answers, but for possibilities. In the blank pages of Earth's great book, it asks, what if something once lived, once built, once dreamed, and then was gone, leaving behind only a silence we've yet to understand? In the fossil record's silent gaps, we find more than missing bones or faded shells. We find the echo of questions. These are not merely spaces between discoveries. They are reminders of time's quiet dominance, of Earth's long and imperfect memory. Each blank page in the stone is a whisper, a beckoning, asking what stories may have once filled these voids. The Silurian hypothesis does not claim answers, but it invites a deeper humility. It reminds us that the history we know is only what endures, and much, perhaps most, has been lost. Could civilizations, fragile, fleeting, have risen in those unseen epochs? Could they have vanished? Not with a bang, but with a slow, eroding sigh, leaving nothing but a pause in the record. And what of the forces that erase the sudden fires, the crashing stones, the long winters of extinction? Could mass extinctions have swept away not only life, but the memory of life's achievements? In our next chapter, we will walk among these cataclysms and listen for what they may have taken with them. Imagine an ancient Earth, trembling beneath darkened skies, the air thick with ash, the oceans swelling with heat and silence. In these rare and violent moments, the planet remakes itself. Life retreats, shifts, vanishes. Whole lineages come to an end, not in battle or decay, but in a breath, a wave, a storm of time. These are the mass extinctions during cataclysms of deep time. They arrive like silent tides, drowning what was, clearing the canvas for what may come. Amid the upheaval, within time's quiet pause, a world is reshaped. What powers could erase so much, so swiftly? What tales and voices faded? And might a civilization, thriving in distant ages, have dissolved in such a tempest? The Silurian hypothesis asks us to linger in that shadow, to wonder not what we know, but what we might have missed. In these upheavals, so powerful, so final, might there lie the reason we find no trace? Let us look closer at the Earth's ancient wounds and ask what they may have buried. Mass extinctions are Earth's quiet cataclysms, sudden only in geological terms, yet sweeping in their effect. They arrive not with a single thunderclap, but with a series of blows drawn over centuries or millennia that shake the balance of life itself. During these upheavals, the planet recasts its narrative, ending countless species in what, to deep time, is a mere breath. There have been 5 great mass extinctions in Earth's history, and each one marked a turning point. The most devastating came around 252 million years ago, at the boundary between the Permian and the Triassic periods. It is known as the Great Dying, for it erased nearly 90% of all marine species, and a similar share on land. The causes were vast and interwoven. Immense volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia, known as the Siberian Traps, poured out lava and gas for hundreds of thousands of years. The air thickened with carbon dioxide, warming the oceans, acidifying their waters, and stripping away oxygen from their depths. A world that had once thrived suddenly gasped for breath. Then, 66 million years ago, another curtain fell. This time at the close of the Cretaceous, an asteroid, 10 kilometers wide, struck the Earth near what we now call the Yucatan Peninsula, creating the Chicxulub crater. The skies darkened with soot and ash, blocking the sun, plants withered, food chains collapsed, and the great dynasty of the dinosaurs came to an end. Only the smallest, the most adaptable, would carry life's thread forward. These events did not merely end species. They disrupted entire ecosystems, changed the chemistry of the oceans, reshaped the atmosphere. They created scars in the fossil record, places where continuity breaks and a new world begins. As we explore these ruptures, we uncover gaps not merely in stone, but in our grasp of the past. Within their quiet depths, we glimpse Earth's power to renew itself, to begin anew. And in those upheavals, one might ask, what else, besides species, might have been lost? Imagine a civilization that flourished long before our own, settled quietly into the rhythms of its world. Perhaps it rose beside ancient coastlines, carved cities from stone, etched its knowledge into tools, into metals, into monuments now long vanished. Its presence, though small in the scope of a planet, was vast in meaning, an expression of thought, of intention, of life aware of itself. And then the sky changed. A distant volcano awoke, spilling clouds of ash into the upper winds. Across oceans, the sun dimmed. Rains turned acidic. The oceans, once calm, began to suffocate as their chemistry shifted. Or perhaps a massive rock, tumbling through space, struck with fury, sending waves of fire and darkness across the globe. In such moments, the Earth does not distinguish. It does not pause to protect what was built, or what once dreamed. Ash buries structures, layer upon layer. Acid dissolves metal, stone, even bone. Wind scatters the fragile remnants. Over time, all that once was become something else, transformed or erased. And what remains, if anything, may blend seamlessly into the natural chaos. A spike of carbon in the rock, but was it from fire lit by hands, or by lava rising from deep within? A trace of metal, but from machines or from a meteor's gift. Even the most enduring markers, those we imagine as permanent, are not immune. Geochemical signals, rare earth elements, isotopic anomalies, all can be lost, overwritten, or misunderstood in the great theater of a mass extinction. A civilization's legacy could become just another ripple, another layer in the stone. Silent and unrecognized, the Silurian hypothesis does not ask us to believe, but to consider that what is missing is not always empty, and that even a civilization, no matter how advanced, may be swept into silence by the Earth's slow, patient hand. The Silurian hypothesis poses a gentle inquiry, not of certainty, but of possibility. If a civilization once rose before us, shaped its world, and left its mark, could we even find it now? Mass extinctions remind us of how fragile history truly is. In those cataclysmic moments, when skies darken, oceans shift, and life is undone, entire chapters may vanish before they are ever written in stone. No evidence speaks of such a civilization, and yet the silence itself becomes part of the mystery. These events do more than end species, they erase stories, scatter remnants, bury time beneath layers of ash and sediment. What was built, what was known, might dissolve into geological noise, indistinguishable from nature's own rhythms. Thus, we ponder in the fractured layers of the fossil record. Might something greater have existed? Might dreams, tools, or traces linger, their meaning veiled in Earth's ancient, shifting depths? The question lingers not to claim, but to reflect, not to prove, but to listen, and in that listening, to recognize how little of time we truly hold. In the tranquil wake of mass extinctions, we sense Earth's vast, impartial might, its capacity to erase not only life, but its very memory. These events, sudden in geological time yet unhurried by human reckoning, leave behind a world remade, old chapters closed, new ones written atop the silence. They are Earth's great erasers, scouring not only species from the story, but the very context in which those lives once unfolded. Thus, the Silurian hypothesis urges us to look anew, not for evidence where it must lie, but for subtle traces where they might endure. If a civilization once stood before us, before the dinosaurs, before even the forests, how could we hope to know what fragments might survive such cataclysms? And how might we read them when the ink has run and the page has crumbled? These are not questions of proof, but of perspective, of humility before time. As we leave behind the shadow of extinction, we turn toward the light of inquiry, toward the quiet tools of science. Geochemistry, paleontology, sedimentology, disciplines that dig not only through stone, but through silence. In our next chapter, we begin this search in earnest, asking not if we believe, but how we might know. If something once was, and what, if anything, remains. Picture a researcher kneeling beside an ancient outcrop, fingertips tracing the silent lines etched into stone. Above, the sky holds stars unchanged across millions of years. Beneath their hand, layers of rock murmur stories colder than memory. Traces of seas, forests, climates, long erased. Could those layers conceal more? Could they whisper of a civilization, now lost to time? We stand at the threshold of inquiry. How might we glimpse a society that vanished millions of years ago? What tools, what science, might carry us beyond absence into possibility? The Silurian hypothesis invites us not to assert, but to explore, to treat the Earth as a library of riddles, where each stratum may hold a clue. Within stone's layers, amid time's quiet depths, we search through ancient sediment's folds. We listen for anomalies, pondering the patterns preserved in subtle chemical shifts. The quest is gentle and patient, guided by curiosity rather than certainty. It asks, could we, with careful methods and open minds, discern traces of something lost? If we find a subtle carbon spike, a rare metal anomaly, or a fossil unlike any known, might these be faint echoes of lives that once pondered their world? This is not a search driven by belief, but by respectful wonder. Each tool, geochemistry, paleontology, sedimentology, is a small lantern in the vast darkness of deep time. They illumine layer after layer, guiding us to ask, what remains when memory fades? When extinction and erosion reshape the planet's surface, we search with humility. We search with reverence, for in seeking those hidden whispers, we reflect on our own impermanence and the fragile legacy we leave in Earth's unfolding story. In the quiet of the lab, beneath lamplight that mimics no sun, a scientist studies a sliver of stone no wider than a finger. Through its translucent edge, instruments trace secrets invisible to the eye. Ratios of carbon, faint whispers of nitrogen, the glint of metals born not of stars, but perhaps of intention. Carbon shifts like a breath in the rock, marking moments when something changed the atmosphere. It could be volcanoes or the fires of industry. In layers where the balance of carbon-13 to carbon-12 skews strangely, a question stirs. Did something once burn, not by nature's hand, but by minds who knew how? Then there are the metals, rare earth elements, scattered like forgotten stars across ancient sediment. These do not float freely in most environments. Their presence, in high concentration, might point not to coincidence, but to use, extraction, purpose, a buried signal of a vanished craft. Even nitrogen, so abundant and often overlooked, can tell stories in agriculture, in fertilizers, in chemical processes shaped by thought. Nitrogen leaves a subtle fingerprint. These, the tools of geochemistry, are lenses through which we examine time, but they are not alone. Paleontology joins the search, looking not just for bones or shells, but for anomalies, fossils that hint at shaping, tools mistaken for stones, patterns that resist randomness, and sedimentology watches the layers themselves, searching for lines too even, too precise, too sudden, a layer of ash where none should be, a line of metal richer than chance allows, a deposit that suggests placement rather than accident. Each is a subtle trace, not proof, but a glimpse of possibility. Across stone, chemistry, and Earth's veiled patterns, we listen for the unnatural amid the natural, the crafted within the formed, the traces minds may have left after their hands faded. Patient and precise, the search continues. The Earth confounds us. It tells stories, but not always clearly. A carbon spike, rising like a breath from the deep past, might speak of fuels burned by sentient hands or of a volcano's ancient fury. The same signature, two vastly different tales, a layer rich in metals, strontium, iridium, or rare earths, might be the residue of machines or the silent gift of a meteor, falling from stars long ago. The stone does not clarify, it preserves, but imperfectly. Less than 1% of all life that has ever lived finds its way into the fossil record, and of that small sliver, even less survives untouched through the crush of time. Bones endure, sometimes shells, if buried quickly, but structures of wood, cloth, plastic, even metal, dissolve, corrode, or are buried too deep for our hands to find. What then of a civilization that spoke through technology, through sound, through light, through ephemeral systems that leave no bone, no monument, no shell? And what if their legacy was not like ours at all? We look for cities, for straight lines, for symmetry that echoes our own creations. But intelligence may take other forms. It may leave traces too subtle for our eyes, tuned as they are to human shapes, to human patterns, a tool shaped like a root, a dwelling grown in, not built, a signal encoded in magnetic fields, or in the quiet alteration of soil chemistry. Would we recognize it, or would we pass it by, mistaking it for nature's quiet hand? The earth mimics us, or rather, we mimic it. And in that mirror, the line between natural and artificial blurs. The Silurian hypothesis gently suggests the past is not merely hidden, but often misread. To seek is not only to look, but to listen, to unlearn, to question what we think we know, and to wonder, gently, if what we call nature might carry within it the fading echo of thought. The Silurian hypothesis seeks no discoveries, nor proclaims answers to reshape our knowledge. Instead, it murmurs gently, urging us to reflect. What does it mean to search for something that may not exist? To look into the stone not with expectation, but with reverence? In this search, there is humility, a recognition that Earth is vast, and we are brief, that its past stretches far beyond our reach, and its stories, even if never told, still matter. We may never find a lost civilization etched in the rocks or encoded in the soil, but in asking, in listening, we learn. Each question deepens our sense of scale, of time, of the fragile spark that is our own moment. Each layer we turn, each anomaly we test, reminds us how much has come before, and how much will come after. Perhaps the value lies not in what we uncover, but in how we choose to see, to approach the unknown not as conquerors, but as students, to see the earth not only as our home, but as a teacher. What does it mean to seek what may never be found? It means we are still curious, still learning, still capable of wonder, and perhaps that, more than any discovery, is what defines us, not what we know, but what we are willing to question. The Silurian hypothesis stands as a quiet mirror, reflecting not a lost civilization, but our longing to understand and our place, so small yet so filled with thought, in the great unfolding of time. As we search the stone for lost worlds, we find more than echoes of the past, we find a mirror. Each question we ask, each trace we examine, reflects our longing to understand, not only what may have come before, but who we are now. The Silurian hypothesis is not a claim of discovery. It is a gesture of humility, a quiet reminder that Earth's history is vast, and our view of it is small. In this gentle quest, guided by science and wonder, we begin to grasp the depth of time and the fragility of memory. We may never find the remnants of another civilization, yet in searching, we uncover something else, a deeper awareness of our own impermanence. What does it mean to seek what may never be found? What does this tell us about humanity's role in the story of Earth? Perhaps the search itself is the answer, a way of honoring those who may have come before and those who may one day look back at us. Now, in our final chapter, let us linger and gather what we've seen. Let us reflect on this journey through time, pondering what it means to be human under the tranquil stars. Drift with me now across the ages, where continents wander, seas rise, and stars shift in silent skies. We have journeyed through deep time, weaving through ancient landscapes, through warm Silurian seas, through layers traced in stone, learning to read Earth's quiet stories. We have imagined civilizations before our own, whispers buried in rocks, faint traces lost to cataclysms. Now we pause and reflect amid the vastness. Within time's tranquil pause, we find ourselves. We have looked backward not to claim discovery, but to open our eyes to possibility, from imagining lost worlds to searching the stone, from contemplating gaps to tracing our own legacy. The Silurian hypothesis has been our guide, a gentle question echoing through eons. What have we learned by daring to wonder what came before? Perhaps that Earth's 5 billion year history is far richer than the brief moment we occupy, that our view is framed by our humanity, yet time stretches beyond our imagining. That to ask, are we the first, is not to seek proof, but to practice humility. This chapter, our final reflection, gathers what we have seen. In the vastness, in the silence, we find ourselves where curiosity meets caution, where legacy meets wonder. Let us begin, lingering between stars and stone, pondering what it means to exist within time's vast embrace. The Silurian hypothesis invites us to ask a simple question. Are we the first civilization to have called Earth home? This idea, first proposed in 2018 by scientists Gavin Schmidt and Adam Frank, is offered not as proof of ancient civilizations, but as a lens, a way to explore our deepest assumptions about intelligence, legacy, and time. It borrows its name from the Silurian period, about 443 to 419 million years ago, not to claim that civilizations existed then, but to remind us how vast Earth's story truly is. As we look back earlier in this series, we encountered the long sweep of deep time, Earth's 5 billion year history that dwarfs the blink of our civilization. We saw how geological forces, erosion, tectonics, sedimentation, rent away almost everything we might leave behind. And we learned that intelligence need not mirror our own, that minds could arise in unexpected forms. We spoke of fragile traces, carbon spikes, isotopic anomalies, rare metals, and the difficulty of distinguishing human-like signatures from natural patterns. We examined gaps in the fossil record, where whispers of life go missing. We paused before mass extinctions, which reset Earth's story and could erase entire chapters. And then we turned to the patient methods of science, geochemistry, paleontology, careful layer-by-layer study to search for what might remain. Throughout, the Silurian hypothesis acts not as a theory, but as a gift, offering humility and inviting us not to assert, but to ponder. It reminds us that no trace has been found. Yet the act of asking reshapes how we see ourselves. Its key insight is this: Earth's deep time is rich with possibility. Our assumptions about civilization, based on humanity, may blind us to other forms of intelligence. Geological processes may have wiped away almost everything, what we call progress, ambition, tool-making, even footprints. Just as they do to fossils, in those silent layers, cataclysms may mask events, and detection may depend on the faintest hint. Within the stillness of unresolved inquiries, the hypothesis urges us to listen. It guides us through oceans of time, through canyons of stone, through gaps in the record, not to find proof, but to practice curiosity, caution, and awe. Yes, our civilization may be the first or not, but the question itself is the gift to imagine other minds, to examine our biases, to search the stone with open wonder, not certainty. That is the heart of the Silurian hypothesis, a thought experiment that expands our perspective, even when its answer remains out of reach. In the vast symphony of Earth's history, humanity plays only a single note, brief yet resonant. From the beginning of life in ancient seas to the great forests that rose and fell, the planet has sung through silence and storm, through creation and collapse. And now, for a moment, we are part of that song. Measured against the Earth's age, 4.5 billion years, our time is almost nothing. A blink, a breath, and yet in that breath, we have changed the world. Our cities stretch across landscapes. Our machines hum with the echoes of thought. We burn fuel, and the air thickens with carbon. We shape metals, scatter plastics, leave radiation woven into the very soil. These are our marks, our Anthropocene signature, fleeting, yet vast in effect. Yet the Earth endures patiently. It has known ice ages and firestorms, shifting continents and vanishing seas. It has buried mountains and erased oceans. What we build may seem monumental, but to the stone, to the sky, it is fragile. 1 million years may pass, and our towers may crumble. 10 million more, and even our traces may fade into the rhythm of dust and clay. This does not diminish us. Rather, it places us gently within something greater. We are not the center of time's tale, but one voice in its choir, and what a rare gift that is, to be aware, to reflect, to wonder. So we must ask, what kind of note do we wish to be? Will our legacy be one of noise or harmony? Will we deepen the song or vanish unheard? The Silurian hypothesis reminds us that we may not be the first to rise, nor the last to fall. It invites us to consider how brief our presence might be, and how beautiful it could become. If shaped with care, to live in deep time is to live humbly, knowing that the world does not revolve around us, yet still holds us in its embrace. It is to listen to the ancient chords beneath our feet, and to choose each day how we will resonate. Will our note endure, or will it fade like so many before us into silence? The choice, for now, is ours. Our legacy need not be etched in monuments, nor bound within stone's quiet depths. It can take gentler forms. Wisdom passed quietly between generations, choices made with care, humility, and foresight, a promise not just to the present, but to the future. For all the marks we might leave, carbon in the air, metals in the soil, structures on the surface, it is the unseen legacy that may speak loudest across time. The way we treat the earth, the kindness we extend to one another, the balance we seek with the world that holds us. These are traces more enduring than steel. The silence of deep time teaches us that nothing built is truly permanent. Cities rise and fall. Machines rust. Even the greatest achievements may one day be lost beneath layers of earth and sea. But wisdom, compassion, the will to live gently, these can ripple onward. Even when the stone has crumbled, perhaps the most meaningful mark we can leave is not in what we build, but in how we choose to exist. We are not the first to walk this earth, and we will not be the last, but we are here now, awake in this moment, capable of listening, of learning, of shaping a story that does not vanish, but echoes softly, thoughtfully, into whatever future may come. As our journey draws to a close, we find ourselves in the quiet company of questions. Gentle, enduring, and profound, we have wandered through ancient oceans, traced lost time in stone, and listened for whispers beneath the surface of what we know. Along the way, the Silurian hypothesis has been not a map, but a mirror reflecting curiosity, humility, and the quiet weight of responsibility. It has not offered answers, but it has opened a space to wonder, to ask not only what might have come before, but what we might choose to become. Within time's tranquil depths, we see our fleeting presence and the profound meaning it holds. So now, as we rest in the vastness, one question remains, one soft thread we carry with us into sleep. What story will we leave behind? For those who one day look back, let us drift now, embracing hope over certainty, reverence over fear, into the tranquil night. In the soft light of a distant tomorrow, Earth turns quietly beneath skies that remember us or forget. Oceans shimmer with memory, or lie still in the hush of absence. Forests may rustle with life, or stand as shadows of what once was. This is a world we will never see, shaped by choices we make now. Each breath, each act, a seed cast into time. How will future generations read our story? In layers of stone and ice, in traces of carbon or vanished species, what will they understand of us? Will they find a world tended with care, or one left wounded and worn? The Silurian hypothesis, with its quiet invitation to imagine those who came before, now turns our gaze ahead, urging us to consider not only what has been lost, but what might still be saved. In time's unfolding, within its tranquil pause, our trace endures. The questions remain, gentle but insistent. What kind of ancestors will we become? What footprints will we leave for minds yet unborn to follow? As we begin this final reflection, we step beyond speculation and into responsibility and wonder what story we are writing, not just in stone, but in the deep heart of time. The Silurian hypothesis has taken us on a quiet journey, not through certainty, but through possibility. It has led us beneath the waves of ancient oceans, across the fractured crust of vanished continents, into the darkened skies of extinction, and through the subtle traces left behind in stone. Along the way, it has revealed the scale of deep time, a canvas so vast that our entire civilization becomes a flicker, a brief moment between turning pages. It has reminded us that the Earth is not a passive stage, but a restless actor, erasing and reshaping what once was. With erosion, subduction, and silence, we have imagined civilizations not like ours, beings who may have walked, swam, or drifted, leaving behind no bones, no cities, only ideas carried on winds or in light. We have seen how fragile signatures are, how even the hardest metal or brightest carbon flare may fade, misread or overwritten by nature's own hand. The fossil record, with its quiet gaps, offers as much mystery as memory. Mass extinctions stand as nature's great resets, capable of sweeping away even the most resilient traces of life. Yet we search patiently, humbly, seeking not answers, but perspective. This is the gift of the Silurian hypothesis. It does not ask us to believe, only to wonder. It reminds us that our presence here, while brief, can still carry meaning, that though we are fleeting, our choices ripple outward. In imagining the lost, we better understand what it means to be present. In considering what may have vanished, we are called to act wisely with what remains. The story we tell now, through the atmosphere, the oceans, the soil, is not just for us, but for those who might one day read the stone as we have. Each choice we make today leaves a mark far beyond the moment. Some are light as breath, others heavy as stone, but all settle into the earth in some way. The Silurian hypothesis gently suggests that though civilizations may fade, their traces linger. Through carbon and sediment, metals and soil, or the life that follows. If we are to leave a trace, let it be one of care. Reducing carbon emissions is more than policy or numbers. It softens our breath in the rock, making our geological signature a gentler one. Preserving forests, wetlands, and reefs not only shelters life today, but seeds a richer fossil record for the far future. Healthy seas teem with creatures who, when gone, may leave their shells as testimony in the stone. Even the act of minimizing waste, of curbing plastics and chemicals, guards the purity of what we pass on. These are not gestures of fear, but of hope. Hope that we might be known not just for the scars we left, but for the healing we offered in the vast soil of deep time. Our choices are seeds, renewable energy, thoughtful cities, restored wildlands. These grow slowly, invisibly, but their roots run deep. They shape an earth that breathes easier, thrives longer, and speaks kindly of those who came before. The Silurian hypothesis does not measure legacy by monuments or machines. It invites us to think in terms of continuity, of resilience, of love. What we give back to the earth is not erased, but remembered, not always in form, but in consequence. In this, we find a new kind of permanence, one born not of power, but of stewardship. Millions of years from now, the earth may still turn beneath familiar skies, though its lands and seas will have changed. Mountains will rise and fall, rivers will carve new paths, and life, whatever form it takes, will continue its quiet dance. Perhaps, in that distant future, another thinking mind will walk the surface. Curious, observant, and wondering, they may study the layers of stone beneath their feet, searching for clues left behind by those who came before, in a trace of metal, in a subtle shift of carbon, in the silence between fossils. They might find us. What will they see? A scar of fire and waste, or the signs of a civilization that chose wisely, that learned to live gently, that healed what it could? If such a being ever wonders whether intelligence walked this earth before, as we now wonder through the lens of the Silurian hypothesis, what legacy will we have left them? Will our story inspire or serve as a quiet warning? Could we be, for them, a mystery not of conquest but of care? The idea that someone might someday search for us encourages a different kind of ambition, one not built on permanence, but on meaning. Perhaps our greatest achievement will not be in what we build, but in what we leave behind for others to understand. A message written not in monuments, but in balance, in the breath of the air, the clarity of the water, the richness of the soil. This is the legacy that endures, that echoes across time, waiting patiently to be found. In the stillness of deep time, the Silurian hypothesis offers no final word, only an open page, a gentle invitation to choose wisely, to live with care. It does not ask us to solve a mystery, but to become aware of the mystery we are part of, to listen to the long silence of the earth and hear our own steps within it. Each act of preservation, each choice toward a balance, writes a line in the story that may one day be read or felt by others. In this reflection, we do not find fear, but a quiet kind of hope, the sense that our brief moment can matter, not through conquest or permanence, but through kindness and foresight. As we look to the future, we ask not just what we leave behind, but what we choose to become, a whisper in the stone or a healing breath in the soil, a scar in the sky or a guiding light for what may come after. What echo will we leave in the stars? Let us carry that question gently as we drift into rest, beneath the slow turning of the heavens, dreaming of an earth yet to be. Gaze upward, beyond the curve of the earth, into a sky scattered with stars, each one a sun, steady and silent in its glow, each one perhaps encircled by worlds unknown, waiting quietly in the dark. Among the stars, within the quiet void, a question stirs. If civilizations could rise and fall on this earth, their stories buried in stone or erased by time, could others have lived and faded elsewhere? Among these distant lights, could minds have stirred under alien suns, leaving behind no monuments, only questions drifting through space? The Silurian hypothesis began as a mirror to our past, guiding us through the deep rhythms of Earth's forgotten epochs. Now, it invites us to lift our eyes outward, to carry what we've learned into the stars. For in imagining lost worlds here, we begin to wonder about those we've never seen, not on this planet, but far beyond. As we close one chapter, we open another, one that does not end in the stone but begins in the sky. This is a quiet journey, born not of certainty but of curiosity, and in that vastness, in that stillness, we ask again, are we the only ones, or just one verse in a cosmic song still unfolding? On Earth, the Silurian hypothesis asks a quiet question. If an ancient civilization had once walked this world, long before our own, would we be able to find its trace today? Not through monuments or myths, but through the subtle language of geology, through carbon isotopes layered in stone, through chemical fingerprints buried beneath the sea, through gaps in fossils, and the silence left behind by extinction. It is a thought experiment, not a claim, a way to reflect on what is knowable and what may be forever lost. But this question does not end with Earth. As we gaze outward into the universe's wide expanse, the same quiet wonder follows us. If traces are so easily erased here, could the same be true on other worlds? What would it take to glimpse the shadow of a distant civilization, one that rose under an alien sun and then was gone? Thanks to missions like Kepler and TESS, we now know that planets are common. Thousands have been found, orbiting stars like our own, many in that gentle balance where liquid water might flow. Some of these planets lie in what we call habitable zones, but habitability is not the same as presence, and life, if it exists, may not be easily seen. Still, we search. Scientists study the light of distant worlds, analyzing their atmospheres for signs that might hint at life, or perhaps even civilization. A spike in methane, an imbalance of gases, a glow that does not match the rhythms of nature. These, too, are echoes. The same tools we use to search our ancient stones may one day help us read the air of distant planets, deciphering whispers carried by light across unimaginable distances. The Silurian hypothesis teaches patience, humility, and precision. What we miss here, we may miss out there. But still, we ask, Earth's story, with its erased landscapes, silent gaps, fragile signals, and vanished worlds, lights the way for our search among the stars. If traces of civilizations can fade beneath our own skies, in the restless transformation of geology, in the rare spark of intelligence, in Cataclysms' Erasure, then what we learn here frames how we listen beyond. On distant planets, scientists turn to radio telescopes, hoping to catch faint transmissions, whispers across light years. They scan alien atmospheres with tools like the James Webb Space Telescope, searching for chemicals out of balance, oxygen without algae, methane without microbes, patterns not born of nature, but of minds. They dream of technosignatures, from flickering artificial lights to structures so vast they bend starlight, subtle hints that something once lived and perhaps still watches from afar. But if Earth teaches us anything, it is humility. Geological erosion may erase entire epochs. Intelligence may arise in forms we do not expect. Extinction may wipe clean the slate of a planet's memory. And even as we seek life beyond, we know that we must tread gently on our own world, preserving what remains, for Earth is but one page in the universe's vast book, fragile, precious, alive. Our search for cosmic companions must be guided not by arrogance, but by a respect born of our lessons here. We listen with wonder, we look with patience, and we act with care, for what we do here may echo in other worlds, or be the only legacy we leave. In seeking alien life, we honor life itself, and affirm our own place in the silent vastness of time. We are seekers by nature, wanderers of thought and space, shaped by the long shadow of Earth's deep history, and driven by questions that stretch beyond our skies. Our curiosity propels us outward, while our humility roots us in the quiet recognition that we are but a moment in a much longer tale. As we listen for signals from afar, we also send our own songs, images, languages, and hope etched onto golden discs aboard spacecraft that drift silently past the edge of our solar system. These are our messages in a cosmic bottle, our invitation to any distant intelligence that might someday find them. Yet even as we reach outward, we must wonder inward. What do these messages say about who we are? Do they reflect care, wisdom, beauty, or are they shadows of a civilization still learning its place? Might we, one day, be the subject of another world's own Silurian hypothesis? A distant civilization sifting through the ashes of time, wondering who once was and why they vanished. To share a story is to exist beyond a single moment, and in the silence between stars, we ask not only if someone is listening, but what it means to be heard. Our story, whatever it becomes, is still being written, shaped by every choice, every whisper, every echo we send into the dark. From the first steps across ancient stones to the final gaze into starlit skies, the Silurian hypothesis has been our quiet companion, guiding us through questions of time, of legacy, of what it means to leave a mark that endures. It asked us not to believe, but to wonder, to listen for whispers buried deep in Earth's memory. And now, to lift our thoughts into the vast silence beyond, we have journeyed through forgotten epochs, imagined civilizations lost to time, searched for traces fragile as breath in the rock, and looked to the stars for echoes that may never return. And yet, in every part of this exploration, we found something more than answers. We found a mirror, a reminder of our place in a story far older and far larger than ourselves. As we drift now, in thought and in rest, we might ask, not only who else is out there, but who we choose to be. What legacy will we offer to the future? What song will we send into the silence? Let us sleep gently with that question, holding wonder close and resting in the quiet of the stars.